Donc, c'est ce soir, Ronnie, c'est Pommer. Hello, my name is Ronnie of the Cowlitz Indian Tribe, and I'm also the production manager and the DJ for Daybreak Star Radio. And I'd like to welcome you all here to this beautiful space, the KEXP Gathering Space, as we conduct another Daybreak Star Radio Folklife interview. Beside me right now is an amazing man who I finally get to interview after all our communication errors, and his name is Peter Ali.
Thank you.
So first, if you could just introduce yourself to people, tell them what great nation you're from and all that.
Hello everybody. Welcome. Yes, I know I'm a Native American flautist. And people are always curious, like, what give a Middle Eastern last name? How does that work? Although anybody can play these instruments, but it's connected to my ancestry. And so I'm born and raised in Southern California and such. And my parents are immigrants, so I'm the son of immigrants. Although I have ancestors that are already here. And so my dad is Moroccan. He's Berber. And so, which is in North Africa, and Berber being indigenous people. And my mom is from Mexico. And for the longest time, I asked my mom, do we have any native ancestry in us? And so she couldn't tell me because she didn't really know. And it's kind of a no-brainer if Mexico is all native people. So I did my own research and found out that I have a percentage of Mayo and Pima ancestry as far as native people go. And from the area near Sonora, which is the state of Mexico, near Hermosillo. And such, and so, and plus some other good things, part of that as well, that I'm sure that I'm going to tell Ronnie and the audience here as we go on with the show. So I've been living in Washington State for over 20 years, I believe, and I live in Bellingham, and it's currently home, and so I came here because of work via 4 other states. I've been playing the instruments for quite a while, for probably over 20 years and stuff. But I'll share that with you in the interview as well. Thank you.
All right. So your flute playing is deeply connected to culture and spirit. How did you first come to the flute, and what drew you to it as a form of expression?
And that's a good question. Because people go like, is it something you wanted to learn how to do, or something you thought was cool to play, or whatnot? I go, no, actually, I needed a way to heal. And I consider these not just instruments, but medicine. And at the time, I was going through what I would definitely call a traumatic divorce, my second one. And so it was pretty bad. I was living on the peninsula in Kingston, and I hadn't even been married a year and a half. But anyways, didn't see any of the red flags. And that's the way it goes. But I always liked different kinds of music and such, and so I went to an art show in Paulsbo, and there was all kinds of vendors, and I could hear flute music, and I was kind of drawn to it. And so I came upon the vendor who had a table with flutes, and it was like a dad and his son, and he said, "Yeah, you can try any of these flutes, man." And I'm like, "Oh no, I don't know how to play anything, and I'm too bashful." But behind the table playing their flutes is this tall native guy, good looking, long hair. His name was Charles Littleleaf from the Warm Springs Reservation. And I got to meet him and his wife Vicki, and I listened to him over the weekend. And I thought, gosh, at the time I wish my wife was there. I thought this was very healing. But that didn't happen. So I spent the weekend listening to him, and he gave me a CD, and I thought about the man who makes the flutes. And then I saved my money, and I drove to the home of the flute maker in Shelton, Washington, and he put his flutes back out again. And I made a decision, and I picked a flute, and I took it home, and I taught myself how to play. I don't read any music. So those of us who play now, we say, how we got our start. No, I did not pick the flute. The flute picked me. And this has been my medicine for all these years to help me get through that time. And that's where it all started.
And I like that you put that out there, because it was a discussion we had in an interview earlier where for us indigenous people, most people consider it a performance. It's never really a performance of any of this stuff. It's ceremony, it's healing, it's our medicine.
I have to agree with you totally on that, because generally when I do my performances, and part of what I say in my presentation to people, when I hold my flute up, I said, this is not just a piece of wood, but this is a tree. And it was alive, and it was breathing, and it's the symbiotic relationship that we have with the trees. And you all have a lot of trees here, believe me. I mean, when I came to Washington State, I'm like, damn, there's a lot of trees here. I love it. But the thing is, what we breathe in, they breathe out. What they breathe in, we breathe out. This connection we have, but also in how we speak. And it's important to note that also there's Native people who believe our breath is sacred. And so through this, as I mentioned in my performances, this is how I speak through this. I also cry through this, and I also pray with this, and all. And so it's it's a very healing thing. So it's constant. I got over that time in my life, and stuff. But I had a new hill to climb. Later down the years, I had cancer, and so I had to deal with surgery, and I had to deal with chemotherapy, which is all part of it, I suppose. But I asked the doctors and the nurses, I go, can I bring my flutes in here? It's kind of boring, being connected to chemo for 8 hours a day. And they said, yeah. So I brought my flutes in, and while I was hooked up to the tree, the chemo tree, I guess, or whatever you call it, I got to sit there and play some music. And I was on the 3rd floor of the infusion center in Providence. Everybody got to hear it. So it wasn't just healing for me, but I was hoping for everybody else and stuff. And this is a nice way to give back to the community as well.
And that right there, proving not all warriors fight.
Yes, yes, I know. And it's just, wow, I don't know. It's just pretty wild.
So my next question, so usually when you're around theater, there's usually many more flutes than this on the table. But each of your flutes has a different voice and a story. How do you choose which one you're going to play? And do certain songs call for specific flute positions?
Well, I guess what I say to that is, what I've noticed that this particular flute is always the first one I play. I don't know why. It's one of my favorite flutes. It's a Lakota style flute, which means it's a plains style flute, the plains people. Just a little background on those people. So these were gender specific in the day. Only the men played these. And they were called love flutes or courting flutes. So these, in other words, the guys would make the flutes and they would produce the song to court for the gal that they cared about. And from what I understand in the story, after the flute was made and he would compose a song, he would go by her dwelling and he would play her a song, like serenading. And then hopefully she would come out and he would have his blanket and he'd put his blanket around her, and that was their time together, but they were never alone. Obviously there was always the elders nearby. And then for the people in the Southwest, they were played for ceremony, and the Southeast for enjoyment. And if you didn't know, also for the Coast Salish people here, these did not arrive here. So these were basically out in the plains and further down south in the Southeast as well.
So you often blend music with storytelling in your performance. Well, you usually blend storytelling with your performances. How do those two elements support and enhance each other for you?
Well, I do the storytelling part because people are always curious. It's like, yeah, like I said earlier, you have a Middle Eastern last name, Ali. And most people want to think, oh, like Muhammad. It depends how old you are. Like Muhammad Ali, the boxer, Cassius Clay, and stuff. You know what? Anything's possible. And so my connection to the instruments are that one day I played for my father, who's now an ancestor himself, and he said to me, your grandfather was a flute player. And I looked at my dad and I'm like, WTF? You know, like, and so I'm like, why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me this when I was growing up? And he goes, why do you think it was important? For a lot of immigrants, sometimes they just want to leave behind some of the stuff, whatever, and they come and they start a new life in the United States. And maybe it was that way with my father, but I was amazed by it. And he said, yeah, your dad played, or your grandfather played the nine. And the nine is an ancient flute, ancient instrument from North Africa, the Middle East. The Arabic people play it, the Berbers play it, the Persians play it, the Turkish people play this instrument. They have found these particular old flutes found buried with the pharaohs, which I have a DNA connection with as well. He played at weddings and ceremonies. Now, I met my grandfather when I was a little kid. I went to Morocco, but I couldn't communicate with him because I don't speak Arabic. And I didn't know this about him, but I thought that was kind of, oh my gosh, this is in my genes already. So now when I play the instrument, I know wherever I play, I'm never alone because my ancestors are also with me. They're here now. And the stories I tell, it's a bit of a story. It's kind of long, but it's just how everybody met and where they were to finally get to the point of, here I am. And all those ancestors before me. I mean, maybe it began with my great-grandfather 5 generations ago from Siberia. And all the, because people migrate. And so somehow ended up in North Africa. And so, you know, it's really wild how people kind of move around.
So much of your work is about healing and connection, as we discussed earlier. What do you hope listeners feel or take with them after hearing you play?
Well, after you hear me play, and maybe if I say a few more words, that there's, depending on the turmoil going on in the world, and it seems like there's always something going on in the world, you know? I mean, I remember when I was younger, there was the Vietnam War. I remember it very, very well. I was still in high school when the Vietnam War was going on. I graduated a year after it ended. I think I was pretty close. But then everything else happened also after that. And it seems like we're always in some perpetual violence and whatnot. I'm trying to promote peace, understanding, and diversity with this because of my own diversity and stuff. I don't adhere particularly too much into one thing or the other. I am who I am. It's like, I know that my mom is from Mexico, but I don't identify as Hispanic. It's a colonial term, or Latinx, or any of that. I would prefer to consider myself indigenous and stuff. And same with my father and all that. But it's a very peaceful instrument, very, very peaceful. It's like it's kind of like the chief man's yoga, if you will. And if breathing is involved, this is the perfect instrument to do it. And I wanted to share this with you as well. When I was getting ready to do much of my chemotherapy, I saw a cardiologist because one of the chemos I was getting was called cisplatin. And it's pretty nasty. You don't even want to get it on your hands. And so they were worried that it was going to affect my pulmonary system. So this doctor checked me out, and he goes, "Mr. Ali, I see you have some very strong throat muscles. What could that be?" He goes, "I play the Native American flute." And he goes, "Awesome." He says, "Keep playing the Native American flute." And I thought that as a positive. But I think that this is a good way, if you're very stressed and whatnot, a way to help you, because it helps you breathe as well. And it doesn't take a lot of breath to play these instruments. It really doesn't and stuff. And I like the idea of playing how I feel, not adhering to a structured piece of music and all. And as I was saying, I played earlier at the powwow, to decolonialize these and stuff. That's kind of what my thing is to do and all that. And you can pick up music anywhere for these and play Kumbaya if you want, which I don't think I'll ever do, but anyhow, that's kind of my take on it.
So you've performed across many communities, many events. How do you adapt your music to different spaces while staying true to yourself and your roots?
I don't know, I just kind of check out the vibe there, you know, depending on, I like folklife. You know, folklife is like many different cultures. Yeah, it's cultures everywhere and stuff. And I think that I have, you know, the ability, because I'm multicultural, you know, I mean, I do speak Spanish, although that's a colonial language, you know, and stuff, and it's not really the language of the people from Mexico, depending on where you're from, but the language of the conquerors. And so, but, you know, I do speak enough. I don't read or write it, but to adapt myself to where I'm at, although most of everything I do is in English, of course. But to know that I grew up in a Hispanic household, I had all the great food and stuff, and even from my father, because he grew up along the ocean, so he had all that seafood and all that kind of stuff. And I think I adapt well with young and old people, and I can identify with some of the things that I know from my time and such. But things that I've gone through, like, you know, that people go through, like the divorce or cancer or some kind of illness, and that sort of thing. So, but even working with kids, because I work with tribal youth groups, a couple different ones, and I actually even work with a flute making class with 4th and 5th graders in the Waldorf School in Olympia. Every year I go down there and work with those kids, and we make flutes together. We spend the day and stuff. So yeah, easy to adapt.
All right, so I have just one more question for you. What advice would you give for young indigenous and native artists or musicians who want to explore traditional instruments or just reconnect with cultural expressions in music?
Well, one thing you should do, if you're able to, is talk to your elders, talk to your aunties and uncles and your relatives. Reach out to them and say, who am I? What are we about? If you can, you know, other than, you know, going to the usual places like libraries and looking for information or reaching out to other sources and stuff. And because I have no knowledge of the Pima people, because a lot of people, you know, in the United States go, oh, Pima, like Arizona. I'm like, no Pima from Arizona, Pima from Mexico and stuff, and the Berbers. And there's a lot written about these folks. And so I'm trying to learn that way, but when I came to this state, I learned a lot from the Coast Salish people that have been extremely kind in sharing their information with me, because I remember going to a powwow down at Muckleshoot and stuff, and I've been going to a few powwows now and then, and I was getting out of my car, and a couple of tribal, you know, they walked by and they said, hey, they said, dude, where are you from? And I looked at them and I didn't know what to say, and I go like I live in Snohomish, and they go, no man, who are you? And I said, yeah, my relatives are from Mexico. Oh, you're one of us, man, native dude. And I just, you know, it feels good to be accepted, you know, that's the coolest thing, because I remember, you know, kids can be pretty mean. I remember growing up as a kid because I had this cool tan. And so I get, kids call me names, they call me the N-word, they call me dirty Mexican, they call me all kinds of stuff. So those are hurtful words. Those are hurtful words. Why? You know, because they learn from another source. You know what? You can't be like that. That's not a good way to be, you know, to people, to respect people and who they are and where they come from and stuff. So if you anything at all, I would encourage young people, whatever form of music you like, whether it's DJing or playing an instrument, try to seek out that help if you can. I know there's community services that do that, or groups in like Seattle area do that, or go to the tribe and talk to them, or look on the internet to look for it. I teach people all the time. I work with kids. Actually today, there's a couple of my ex-students that were at the powwow over there that were there attending as well. I had one of them come play in front of everybody, and it's changed their lives, and I'm really proud to hear that. I mean, I thought, this is a tradition I want to pass down. I mean, and these people are showing me that it's working, and it's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. And I gotta say, it was kind of fun this morning when we got here and you were about to go on at the Circle of Indigenous People, and all of a sudden, like 3 people came running up, and they're like, did Peter go on it? I'm like, no, he's getting ready. They're like, oh my God. I was like, I love seeing the excitement for those people coming to see you this morning, so.
Thank you, Ronnie, thank you. Like I said, I'm really happy we finally got together.
I've seen it before many times, but we've not gotten the chance to sit down and speak, but yeah. Well, that was the last question. So I'm now going to step off the stage. I'm going to let Peter show you why he's here and give you some songs from the heart.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I brought a couple of flutes. I was in a bit of a hurry to get over here, and so all my stuff's back over at the powwow. I had just enough time to grab these 2 guys that I play a lot, and so I will share what I can with you. Also, just to know, I don't read music. People will ask me, what is that, A minor? I'm like, I don't know what that means and stuff. And 5-note pentatonic scale, I don't know what it means. I don't care. And so I play from my heart. And also because it's in my DNA, because my ancestors are here as well. They helped me get through these times. And if you're wondering, I didn't make these flutes. These are made by different Well, these two are made by the same guy, but anyhow. Yeah, this is like one of my favorite flutes, and it happens to be in the key of A. It was signed by different people that I met along the journey. John Tuhawks, who's a Lakota flute player. Mary Redbone, she's a Native American performer. John Trudell had signed this, and I met him years ago at Northwest City College, but the signature faded away. And then the other signature is Buffy St. Marie. I'm sure you know about her and such. So I also wanted to quickly say that the years that I played here at Folklife, I have played, I mean, it's so intense sometimes emotionally. When I'm playing the instrument, I almost start crying while I'm on stage in front of an audience. And I just have to bite my tongue. I'm like, no, not here. But it's just so driven emotionally and stuff. So, okay, I think I'm ready to play. Thank you. Just like I practiced. No, seriously, folks, I just made that up. So it's the spirit within that drives me to play how I play. And I don't care if you record me because it's different every time. So this next flute has a little story to it as well. This is another Lakota style flute. The Plains people from the Midwest. As you can see, this is a bird, a loon, just like this guy over here. Well, I had one just like this some time ago, exact copy of this. So I tell this story every year I come to play at Northwest Folklife. I either get a chance and get a spot to do a performance, or I do a workshop. And yesterday I did a workshop too, but it was kind of cool. So I have a lot of stuff to carry. I have all my flutes and all the flute bag and a table and a rack. It's a lot of stuff. And so I always park at the Mercer Street parking. And so I go over there and try to unload everything and get it in my car after spending maybe a day and a half or 2 days here, and get on I-5 and head north back to Bellingham. Well, guess who I left on the roof of the car? Because I get distracted easily, and I don't know if that's an ADH thing or whatever. I probably have it. That's cool. So anyway, so I called my flute maker friend and I go, "Hey Guillermo," I said, "Hey, can you make me another one of these?" He goes, "Why?" And I said, "I'll tell you later." So this is a second copy of the same flute. So when I got my second flute and I came to play somewhere in Seattle, there were some young people in the audience. And some kid goes, "Hey, that's not a loon." "What do you mean, kid?" He goes, "That's an evil rabbit." I go, "What do you mean?" "The ears, the eye, and the grimace." I said, "Go away." I said, now I can't get that out of my head. So there you go, the evil rabbit story. So true story. So this guy is an F sharp. If you're a music purist, I know that because it's written on the bottom of the flute. And it's called the grandfather key, something that's more traditional, because native flutes used to be keyed to the maker's voice. Okay, so like, if I hadn't said it earlier, key of A, key of F sharp are more sounding traditional, but when the Europeans came here, they said, "Whoa, these are cool, we want to key them to our stuff." And so that's why contemporary Native American flutes are keyed in Western scale, because they're kind of in the blues scale. You can play with guitar players and fiddle players and other flutes and stuff, so they're kind of cool in that way as well. Well, I'll play you a song from this guy. So it's a lower key. Cool, thank you. Alrighty, so I think I might do one more. If I had more time and all my flutes, I would do 15 more. Oh my goodness. Well, just a little bit of history again. Kind of a little bit more about myself. Again, trying to figure out who I am and where I come from. And I share part of this story. I said earlier, my dad came to the United States on the Doria. If you don't know about the Doria, look it up. It was a famous Italian steamliner that was sunk in the Atlantic Ocean when it was hit by the Swedish ship, the Stockholm. But to back up a little further, my father's uncle helped him come to the United States. My dad's uncle was a veteran of the Spanish Civil War, and he came to New York because he had to get out of Morocco because he was also a hitman. Ooh. And I met him too. He was a cool guy, but he's an old guy. But anyways, he met the wife that the woman he would marry in New York while he was in New York, and she was escaping from her country with her sister-in-law and her brother and her dad, and it was just they left because they were German Jew. It was just before the onset of the Second World War, and so somehow these people met. They got married. They moved to San Diego had a chicken farm. The lady that married my dad's uncle would be my grandmother, not by blood, but just because. And her name was Magda, and Magda was an opera singer and a model in the 1930s in Germany, and I loved her dearly. I'll never forget her and stuff. So that's kind of where it began. My dad was 14 years old, like I say, and he lied about his age when he came to the United States, and he met my mom, so in Mexico. But I'm grateful for all my ancestors because obviously I wouldn't be here if they hadn't, the struggles that they went through and everything for them to get where they had to go and to make it so that I'm here and stuff. So I'm still learning. It's never an ending thing for it. Oh, by the way, I wanted to also share with you that these are very forgiving instruments. If you play a recorder, you could probably play one of these. And so, I'm trying to think of what to play next. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ronnie, wherever you are. Thank you for having me.
Right here.